Picture this. You wake up to a barrage of notifications, emails piling up, social media demands, news alerts screaming crises. Before your feet even touch the floor, your heart races with tomorrow's deadlines and yesterday's regrets. Sound familiar? This isn't just your story, it's the soundtrack of modern life, where stress and anxiety have become constant companions. But what if I told you there's an ancient antidote to this modern madness? A philosophy forged in the fires of adversity, yet perfectly suited for our chaotic times. 2,000 years ago, Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus faced wars, exiles, and plagues, yet they cultivated unshakable peace. Today, their wisdom cuts through the noise like a lighthouse in a storm. In this video, we'll unpack 25 Stoic insights that act as mental armor against life's turbulence. These aren't abstract theories, they're battle-tested tools you can use today to transform overwhelm into clarity, fear into courage, and chaos into calm. From mastering what's within your control to finding opportunity in every obstacle, these principles have guided emperors and astronauts alike. Stick around, and by the end, you'll have a practical playbook to reclaim your peace of mind, no matter what life throws your way. Now let's dive into the first and perhaps most transformative Stoic insight, focusing on what you can control. The ancient teacher Epictetus laid the foundation with a simple but life-changing idea. Some things are within our power while others are not. This is the Stoic dichotomy of control, a mental filter that helps you separate the wheat from the chaff in your daily struggles. Picture your mind as a fortress. The things within your control, your opinions, choices, desires, and actions, are the gates you can open or close at will. Everything else, other people's opinions, traffic jams, the weather, even your own body's aging, are like arrows shot from outside the walls. No matter how much you stress over them, you can't stop them midair. Here's the magic: when you stop wasting energy on what's beyond your control, anxiety loses its grip. Imagine fretting over a delayed flight. You can't control the weather or the airline's decisions, but you can choose how to use the waiting time reading, reflecting, or simply observing the chaos with calm detachment. That shift in focus is liberation in action. Stoics weren't just theorizing, they lived this. When the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, he didn't obsess over others' disloyalty, he focused on his own integrity. When Epictetus was enslaved, he couldn't change his chains, but he mastered his mind. Today, this same principle helps entrepreneurs adapt to market crashes, parents navigate tantrums, and students cope with exam stress. The next time overwhelm creeps in, ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, let it pass like clouds. If it is, act without drama. This single question can quiet the noise and reclaim your peace. Now that we understand the power of focusing on what we can control, let's bring this Stoic wisdom into your daily life with practical tools. One of the most effective exercises is the control journal, a simple but profound practice. Here's how it works. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to divide a page into 2 columns. On one side, list everything that stressed you out. Then, in the other column, categorize each item. Is it within your control or not? This act of sorting alone trains your brain to spot the difference, like building mental muscle memory. Over time, you'll catch yourself mid-worry, pausing to ask, can I actually do something about this? Let's make it real with modern examples. Imagine you're stuck in a frustrating work meeting where colleagues keep derailing the agenda. Instead of simmering over their behavior which you can't control, focus on what you can do. Prepare concise points beforehand, steer conversations back gently, or even choose to view the chaos as a patience-building exercise. In relationships, maybe a friend keeps canceling plans. You can't force them to show up, but you can communicate your feelings clearly or decide how much energy to invest moving forward. The magic happens when you turn theory into tiny, consistent actions. Try this today. pick one situation where you'd normally feel helpless and shift your attention to just one small thing you can influence. Whether it's adjusting your posture during stress or choosing a kinder inner dialogue, these micro shifts add up to monumental change. Remember, Stoicism isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Each time you refocus on your circle of control, you're not just solving problems, you're rewiring your mind for peace. Now, let's explore one of the most transformative Stoic practices, Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. Coined by Marcus Aurelius, this principle teaches us not just to accept what happens, but to embrace it wholeheartedly, as if we'd chosen it ourselves. Think of it as life's ultimate hack. Instead of fighting reality, we learn to flow with it, finding opportunity in every twist and turn. Most of us instinctively resist hardship. We complain about traffic, resent setbacks, or wish circumstances were different. But Stoics like Marcus Aurelius flipped this script. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Imagine viewing every obstacle as a chance to grow stronger, wiser, or more compassionate. That's Amor Fati in action. History gives us powerful examples. Take Epictetus, born into slavery, yet he transformed his suffering into wisdom, eventually becoming one of Stoicism's greatest teachers. Or Seneca, exiled to a barren island, who used that isolation to write letters that still guide us today. These weren't superhumans, they were people who chose to see adversity as fuel. Here's the challenge. Next time life throws you a curveball, pause and ask, how can this serve me? Maybe a missed promotion frees you to explore a better path. A conflict could teach patience. Even grief, as painful as it is, can deepen your capacity for love. Amor Fati isn't about pretending things are easy. It's about trusting that nothing happens to you but for you. Start small. Today, pick one inconvenience and greet it with curiosity, not resistance. That's how you turn fate into an ally. Now, let's take this idea even deeper by learning how to actively transform challenges into stepping stones. One of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers is the art of reframing, shifting your perspective to see obstacles not as roadblocks but as invitations to grow. Think of it like mental alchemy, turning lead into gold. Take Seneca's exile, for example. When the Roman Emperor Claudius banished him to Corsica, a remote and harsh island, Seneca could have succumbed to despair. Instead, he wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." He used those years in exile to refine his philosophy, producing works that would inspire millions. His isolation became his classroom, and his writings from that period remain some of his most profound. Here's how you can apply this today. When faced with a setback, ask yourself 3 Stoic questions. First, what can I learn from this? Second, how does this make me stronger? And third, what action can I take right now? This simple practice shifts your focus from helplessness to agency. Imagine losing your job, a devastating blow, but also a chance to reassess your path, learn new skills, or even start that business you've been dreaming of. Or consider a health challenge. While painful, it might teach you resilience or deepen your appreciation for life. The key is to train your mind to spot the hidden gift in every difficulty. Start small. Next time you're stuck in traffic, instead of fuming, use those minutes to listen to a podcast or reflect on your day. When a project fails, mine it for lessons rather than regrets. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about recognizing that within every obstacle lies the seed of an equal or greater benefit. The Stoics didn't just endure hardships, they leveraged them. And you can too. Now, let's explore one of the most transformative ideas in Stoicism: the obstacle is the way. This paradox, popularized by Ryan Holiday, captures the essence of turning adversity into advantage. At first glance, it sounds counterintuitive. How can a problem be the path forward? But the Stoics understood that obstacles aren't just things to overcome, they're the very things that shape us. Think of it like a blacksmith's forge. The hammer strikes the metal not to destroy it, but to strengthen it. In the same way, challenges refine our character, sharpen our skills, and reveal our hidden potential. Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, brings this ancient wisdom to modern life, showing how everyone from entrepreneurs to athletes use setbacks as fuel for growth. Here's the core idea: every obstacle presents two choices. You can see it as a barrier, something that stops you in your tracks, or you can see it as an invitation, a chance to innovate, adapt, and rise stronger. The difference lies in perspective. Take Thomas Edison, for example. When his lab burned down, destroying years of work, he didn't despair. He famously said, "All our mistakes are burned up. Now we can start fresh." That's the obstacle is the way mindset in action. So how do you apply this? Start by asking, what if this obstacle is here to teach me something? Maybe a failed project reveals a skill you need to develop. A difficult relationship teaches patience or boundaries. Even physical pain can deepen your appreciation for health. The key is to stop resisting and start engaging, to lean into the challenge rather than away from it. This isn't about denying the difficulty. It's about recognizing that within every struggle lies an opportunity to practice courage, creativity, or resilience. The next time you face an obstacle, pause and ask, how can this serve me? That shift in thinking doesn't just help you survive hardships, it helps you thrive because of them. And that's the power of seeing the obstacle as the way. Now, let's turn our attention to another profound Stoic practice, memento mori, a Latin phrase meaning remember you must die. At first, this might sound morbid, even unsettling, but the Stoics saw it differently. For them, reflecting on mortality wasn't about fear, it was about clarity. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, began each day with this reminder, telling himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Imagine waking up every morning with that perspective. Instead of dragging yourself through routines, you'd move with purpose. You'd waste less time on trivial arguments, petty grievances, or mindless distractions. Because when you remember life is finite, every moment becomes precious. This isn't about gloom, it's about liberation. The awareness of death sharpens your focus on what truly matters. Think of it like an hourglass. The sand is always flowing, never pausing. Memento mori is simply noticing that flow, not to panic, but to act. The Stoics believed this practice dissolves procrastination. Why put off meaningful conversations, creative projects, or acts of kindness if today could be your last? It's why Steve Jobs famously said, remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. So how can you apply this? Start small. Each morning, take a moment to reflect on the impermanence of life. It could be as simple as pausing before your first sip of coffee to ask, if this were my last day, how would I spend it? Not to dwell on loss, but to ignite gratitude and urgency. Use it to prioritize relationships, take bold action, or let go of what doesn't serve you. The beauty of memento mori is its dual power. It humbles you, reminding you that no problem lasts forever, and it energizes you, turning ordinary days into opportunities. Death isn't just an end, it's a compass, pointing you toward a life lived fully. And that's the gift of remembering. Now, let's explore how this ancient practice translates into modern life. Memento mori doesn't require you to dwell on death in a grim way. Instead, think of it as a tool for intentional living. One practical approach is death cleaning, a concept popularized by Swedish author Margareta Magnusson. It's not about morbid preparation, but about decluttering your life physically and emotionally. By regularly sorting through possessions, you ask yourself, would I want to leave this behind as my legacy? It's a gentle nudge to keep only what truly adds value. Another modern twist is visualization. Try this simple exercise. Close your eyes and picture yourself at the end of your life, looking back. What do you wish you'd done more of? What regrets might haunt you? This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. The Stoics called this the view from above, and today, psychologists use similar techniques to help people align their actions with their values. Some people misunderstand memento mori as a call to live recklessly, as if every day should be a thrill-seeking adventure, but that's not the Stoic way. It's not about skydiving or bucket lists, it's about depth, not drama. The real question is, are you living in a way that would leave you at peace if today were your last? That might mean mending a relationship, starting that project you've postponed, or simply sitting quietly with someone you love. You can also integrate this practice digitally. Try setting a phone reminder with a phrase like, "What would today look like if it mattered?" or use apps that prompt daily reflections on impermanence. The key is consistency, not intensity. Even a few seconds of mindful awareness can shift your perspective. The biggest misconception that memento mori is depressing. In reality, it's the opposite. By embracing life's brevity, you strip away distractions and amplify joy. Think of it like a sunset. Its beauty is heightened because it's fleeting. When you remember time is limited, you stop waiting for someday and start living today. And that's the power of bringing this ancient practice into your modern routine. Now let's turn to another powerful Stoic tool, premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This isn't about pessimism, it's about preparation. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, used this practice to face life's uncertainties with calm clarity. Here's how it works. Instead of avoiding thoughts of potential setbacks, you deliberately imagine them in advance. Picture the worst-case scenario, not to dwell on it, but to disarm its power over you. For example, imagine you're about to give a big presentation. Your mind might spiral with fears of stumbling or forgetting your lines. The Stoic approach: lean into those fears, visualize yourself in that moment, feeling the nervousness, hearing the silence, and then picture yourself responding with composure. By rehearsing the challenge mentally, you reduce its emotional sting. Seneca called this suffering in advance, and it's remarkably effective. When the actual moment arrives, you've already faced it in your mind, so the reality feels less daunting. You can apply this to everyday worries too. Stressed about a difficult conversation, play it out in your head first. Anxious about travel delays, mentally walk through how you'd handle them. The key is to focus not just on the problem, but on your response. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Then ask, how would I navigate that? This shifts you from helplessness to agency. Modern psychology backs this up. Techniques like stress inoculation mirror Seneca's method, showing that anticipating challenges builds resilience. But remember, this isn't about catastrophizing. The Stoics weren't inviting you to obsess over disasters. They were teaching you to rehearse your strength. When you premeditate evils, you're not predicting the future, you're preparing your mind, and that's how you turn anxiety into action. Now, let's rise above the noise for a moment and explore one of the most profound Stoic exercises, the view from above. This practice invites you to step outside your immediate worries and see your life from a cosmic perspective. Picture yourself floating high above the earth, looking down at the vast expanse of cities, forests, and oceans. From this vantage point, your daily struggles start to seem smaller, almost insignificant. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, used this technique regularly to remind himself of life's bigger picture. In his writings, he described how even the grandest human achievements, palaces, empires, fame, are just fleeting specks in the sweep of time and space. Here's why this works. When you're stuck in the trenches of everyday stress, minor inconveniences feel like emergencies, but the view from above shrinks them back to their true size. That argument with a coworker, the traffic jam that ruined your morning, from a cosmic distance, they're barely noticeable. This isn't about dismissing your feelings, it's about gaining clarity. By zooming out, you create mental space to ask, does this truly matter? Modern psychology echoes this wisdom. Techniques like cognitive distancing help reduce emotional intensity by shifting perspective. Think of it as emotional zoom lens. When you're too close, everything feels overwhelming, but when you pull back, you regain balance. Marcus Aurelius didn't have satellites or space photos, yet he understood this principle deeply. He'd write notes to himself about the little blue dot effect long before Carl Sagan made it famous. Try this tonight. Before bed, spend 5 minutes visualizing Earth from space. Watch your neighborhood shrink to a pinprick, then your country, then the planet itself. Notice how your worries dissolve into the stillness. The view from above doesn't solve problems, it solves your relationship to them. And that's how you trade petty concerns for peace. Now, let's bring our focus back down to earth and into the pages of a journal, because Stoicism isn't just about grand cosmic perspectives. It's also about the daily work of self-reflection. Journaling like a Stoic is one of the most practical tools you can use to cultivate peace of mind, and it's simpler than you might think. The Stoics had a 3-part method that stood the test of time. First, write down what happened, just the facts, no drama. Second, ask yourself what you learned from the experience. And third, decide how you'll improve moving forward. Think of it as a mental debrief. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, that was essentially his personal journal, filled with notes to himself about setbacks, lessons, and resolutions. He didn't just vent, he analyzed. For example, if someone insulted him, he'd jot down the event, reflect on why it bothered him or why it shouldn't, and then plan how to respond with virtue next time. This method turns everyday frustrations into growth opportunities. Here's how to start. Each evening, take 10 minutes to answer 3 prompts. What challenged me today? What did it teach me about my values or reactions? How can I handle it better tomorrow? You don't need fancy stationery. A simple notebook works. But if you want recommendations, try a durable option like the Leuchtturm 1917 or a guided journal like the Daily Stoic. The key is consistency, not perfection. Some days you'll write a paragraph, other days just a sentence. Why does this work? Writing forces clarity. It takes messy emotions and turns them into actionable insights. Seneca called it digesting life. You process experiences instead of letting them weigh you down. Modern research backs this up. Journaling reduces stress, improves emotional regulation, and even boosts problem-solving skills. So grab a pen and start small. The goal isn't to create a masterpiece, it's to create a wiser, calmer you, 1 page at a time. And if you're wondering what's next, we'll explore how the Stoics mastered their desires, because wanting less can actually give you more freedom. But for now, let tonight's journal entry be your first step toward that peace. Now, let's turn our attention to a principle that might sound counterintuitive at first: the discipline of desire. The Stoics believed that true freedom doesn't come from getting everything you want, but from wanting less in the first place. This is where the distinction between natural and unnatural desires becomes crucial. Natural desires are those rooted in our basic needs: food, shelter, connection, purpose. They're simple, finite, and aligned with our well-being. Unnatural desires, on the other hand, are the endless cravings society conditions us to chase: status, luxury, approval, or the next shiny distraction. The Stoics argued that these are the traps that keep us restless because they're insatiable. No matter how much you acquire, there's always something else to want. Here's the key insight: limiting desires doesn't mean living a life of deprivation. It means redirecting your energy toward what truly matters. Epictetus put it bluntly: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When you stop equating happiness with external things, you reclaim control over your peace of mind. Think of it like decluttering your mental space. Every desire you prune, whether it's the need to impress others, the obsession with perfection, or the fear of missing out, creates room for contentment to grow. Seneca practiced this by periodically living as if he'd lost everything, not to punish himself, but to remind himself how little he actually needed. Modern life bombards us with messages that more is better. But the Stoics offer a radical alternative: better is better. By focusing on desires that align with virtue and self-sufficiency, you cultivate a quiet confidence that isn't shaken by what you don't have. And when you're no longer chasing the next thing, you'll find something surprising: you already have enough. This discipline isn't about willpower, it's about wisdom. And as we'll see next, the Stoics applied the same clarity to their actions, turning everyday choices into opportunities for growth. Now, let's explore how the Stoics turned intention into action. The discipline of action is about more than just doing, it's about doing with purpose, aligning every step with virtue. Epictetus offered a powerful metaphor for this. Imagine life as a grand banquet. Dishes are passed around, and you take what's offered with gratitude, never reaching greedily for more or complaining about what you didn't receive. This mindset transforms how we approach decisions. In modern terms, it means focusing on the quality of your efforts, not just the outcomes. Say you're working on a project, instead of fixating on promotions or praise, ask yourself, am I acting with integrity? Am I contributing something meaningful? The Stoics remind us that while we can't control results, we can always control how we show up. Apply this to everyday choices. When faced with a difficult conversation, the disciplined action isn't avoiding conflict or winning the argument, it's speaking with honesty and kindness. When tackling a task, it's not about cutting corners to finish faster, but about doing work you can be proud of. Even small actions, like how you spend your free time, become opportunities to practice virtue, choosing growth over distraction, connection over scrolling. The banquet metaphor also teaches acceptance. Sometimes life serves us disappointment or hardship. The disciplined response isn't resentment, it's asking, how can I use this to strengthen my character? This shifts decision-making from a place of lack to one of agency. Every action, no matter how small, becomes a chance to live by your principles. And as we'll see next, this clarity extends to how we respond to the world around us, not with impulsive reactions, but with mindful discernment. Now, let's turn to another powerful Stoic tool, the discipline of assent. This is where we learn to pause before reacting, creating space between what happens and how we respond. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction might be anger, but the Stoics would ask you to insert a moment of awareness, a cognitive gap before that emotion takes over. This gap is where freedom lies. Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By pausing, we can question those judgments. Is this truly harmful, or am I interpreting it that way? Could there be another explanation? This simple pause weakens the grip of impulsive reactions and lets us choose a wiser response. The Stoics practiced this through mindfulness techniques long before the term existed. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself each morning, "Today I'll meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, but none of these things can injure me." This mental preparation created a buffer against emotional turbulence. Another exercise was to visualize challenges in advance, not to dwell on negativity, but to rehearse calm, rational responses. Try this in daily life. When you feel frustration rising, take a deep breath and ask, is this within my control? Does my reaction serve me? Over time, that split-second pause becomes a habit, and emotions lose their power to hijack your actions. And just as mastering this discipline refines our responses, it also prepares us for the next insight: how Stoicism fosters a profound sense of connection with the world around us. Now, let's expand our perspective beyond the self and explore the Stoic principle of sympatheia, the profound sense of universal connection. The Stoics believed everything in the cosmos is interwoven like threads in a vast tapestry. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this, writing, "What harms the hive harms the bee." This isn't just poetic imagery, it's a call to recognize how our actions ripple outward, affecting others and the world around us. At its core, sympatheia teaches that we're not isolated individuals but part of a greater whole. Imagine a tree. Its roots, branches, and leaves all depend on one another. Similarly, our well-being is tied to the well-being of others. This idea fuels empathy. When we see someone struggling, we're moved to help because their pain is, in a sense, our own. The Stoics argued that this interconnectedness should guide how we treat both people and the planet. Consider environmentalism through this lens. If nature is part of the same cosmic fabric, harming the environment isn't just irresponsible, it's self-defeating. The Stoics would urge us to act as stewards, not conquerors. Even small choices like reducing waste or supporting sustainable practices align with this philosophy. Social responsibility also flows from sympatheia. Hierocles, a Stoic philosopher, used the metaphor of concentric circles. We start with care for ourselves, then expand it to family, community, and eventually all of humanity. In today's world, this might translate to advocating for justice, volunteering, or simply listening to someone with a different viewpoint. The goal isn't perfection but progress in widening our circle of concern. This principle challenges the modern emphasis on hyper-individualism. It reminds us that true peace comes not from selfish pursuits but from contributing to something larger. And as we nurture this mindset, we naturally transition to the next insight: how embracing discomfort can paradoxically strengthen our resilience and gratitude. Now, let's shift our focus to a Stoic practice that might seem surprising at first: voluntary discomfort. This is the deliberate choice to embrace hardship, not because we enjoy suffering, but because it strengthens us. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't run 26 miles on race day without preparation. You push your limits in practice so the real challenge feels manageable. The Stoics, particularly figures like Cato the Younger, lived this principle daily. Cato, a Roman statesman and Stoic, was known for his extreme discipline. He would walk barefoot in rough weather, wear simple clothing even when he could afford luxury, and eat plain meals. Why? To remind himself that comfort isn't a requirement for happiness. By willingly facing minor hardships, he built an unshakable resilience. When real adversity struck, like political betrayal or war, he was prepared, not paralyzed. This practice isn't about punishing yourself. It's about proving that you can thrive with less. Try sleeping on a firmer mattress occasionally, taking cold showers, or fasting for a meal. These small acts train your mind to detach from external comforts and appreciate what you have. Gratitude grows when you realize how much you can endure and even flourish without excess. The modern world constantly sells us the idea that ease equals happiness, but Stoics argue the opposite. True contentment comes from knowing you're capable, no matter the circumstances. Voluntary discomfort strips away the illusion that we need certain conditions to be okay. And as we'll see next, this mental toughness prepares us for another key Stoic skill: mastering our reactions when life gets tough. Now, let's explore a skill that separates the Stoic from the reactive: the art of non-reaction. In a world where emotions often dictate our responses, the Stoics offered a radical alternative: pause before you engage. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, compared anger to a temporary madness. He warned that once it takes hold, reason flees, leaving destruction in its wake. Modern culture often rewards quick, emotional reactions. Think social media, outrage, or heated arguments. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. When insulted or provoked, the Stoic doesn't fire back. Instead, they ask, is this worth my energy? Will reacting improve the situation? This isn't about suppressing emotions but mastering them. Seneca advised a simple yet powerful technique: delay. When anger flares, wait, count to 10, take a walk, or sleep on it. Most conflicts lose their heat when given space. Consider this example from Seneca's own life. When a rival publicly mocked him, Seneca didn't retaliate. He later wrote that the man's words only had power if he chose to acknowledge them. By refusing to react, he denied his critic the satisfaction and preserved his own peace. This practice extends beyond anger. Frustration, envy, even excitement. Stoics train to meet all emotions with a pause. Try it next time you feel provoked. Breathe, ask yourself, does this deserve my attention? Often you'll find the answer is no. And as we'll see, this discipline of non-reaction prepares us for another Stoic superpower, shifting our focus from what others think to what truly matters within. Now, let's turn our attention to a principle that cuts through the noise of modern life: character over reputation. The Stoics made a sharp distinction between these two, and few put it better than Epictetus. He taught that what others think of us, our reputation, isn't truly up to us. It's an external, as unpredictable as the weather, but our character, that's entirely within our control. Think about how much energy we pour into managing perceptions, curating social media posts, worrying about likes, or fearing criticism. The Stoic approach flips this obsession on its head. Epictetus would ask, why chase approval you can't guarantee? Instead, focus on what you can shape: your integrity, your actions, your responses. A modern Stoic might scroll past a hurtful comment not out of indifference, but because they've weighed what's worth their attention. This isn't about neglecting how we're seen entirely. Reputation matters in practical terms: jobs, relationships, opportunities. But the Stoic prioritizes building a strong character first, trusting that a solid foundation speaks for itself. Imagine two people, one obsessed with appearing virtuous online, the other quietly practicing virtue offline. Over time, the difference becomes undeniable. Apply this today. Next time you're tempted to craft an image, ask, am I acting for applause or principle? The more we root ourselves in what's truly ours, our choices, our values, the less power external opinions hold. And as we'll see, this shift prepares us for another Stoic tool: embracing uncertainty with the reserve clause. Building on this foundation of focusing on what we control, let's explore a Stoic mindset that bridges effort and surrender: the reserve clause. The ancient Stoics called it fate permitting, a simple but profound way to approach any endeavor. Imagine pouring your energy into a goal, say a promotion at work, while quietly adding in your mind, if nothing prevents me. This isn't defeatism, it's wisdom. The reserve clause acknowledges reality. We can do our part, but outcomes aren't guaranteed. Marcus Aurelius modeled this daily. He'd begin his morning by listing intentions, then add, if the gods allow it. Today, we might phrase it differently, but the principle remains. A job candidate prepares meticulously for an interview, yet understands the role might go to someone else. A parent strives to give their child every opportunity, knowing life has its own plans. The reserve clause isn't about half-hearted effort, it's about full commitment paired with emotional flexibility. Consider relationships. You might plan a heartfelt conversation to mend a rift, holding space for the other person's response, or lack thereof. The Stoic invests fully in the attempt, then releases attachment to the result. This mindset dissolves frustration when things don't go as hoped, because you've already factored in life's unpredictability. The magic lies in the balance. Without the reserve clause, we risk either arrogance, assuming we control everything, or apathy, assuming nothing matters. With it, we act with purpose while making peace with the twists of fate. And as we'll see next, this prepares us for another transformative practice: Stoic mindfulness, where attention becomes our superpower. Now let's turn our attention to a practice that bridges ancient wisdom and modern science: Stoic mindfulness. While today's mindfulness movement often focuses on being present, the Stoics took it a step further. They trained their attention not just to observe, but to consciously choose their responses. Think of it as mindfulness with a purpose. One powerful tool they used was the Stoic pause, a deliberate moment between stimulus and reaction. Imagine someone cut you off in traffic. Instead of instantly honking or fuming, you take a breath and ask, what would virtue look like here? This tiny gap disrupts autopilot reactions, giving you agency over your emotions. Epictetus called this the discipline of assent, the practice of not letting impressions overwhelm you before you've examined them. Modern mindfulness often stops at awareness, but Stoics added a layer of judgment. They'd ask, is this within my control? Does this align with my values? Marcus Aurelius journaled nightly, reviewing his day with questions like, where did my impulses lead me astray? This wasn't self-criticism, it was recalibration. To bring this into your life, try a morning ritual. Before checking your phone, spend 5 minutes setting intentions. Ask, what qualities will I embody today? Then in the evening, reflect, where did I act with wisdom? Where did I let externals disturb me? These bookends create a rhythm of awareness and growth. The beauty of Stoic mindfulness is its practicality. It's not about emptying your mind, but filling it with purposeful attention. And as we'll see next, this clarity prepares us to examine a concept often misunderstood, the Stoic idea of indifference, where freedom isn't about having everything but needing nothing. Now let's unpack one of the most misunderstood Stoic ideas, indifference to indifference. At first glance, the term sounds cold, as if Stoics didn't care about anything. But here's the twist. It's not about lacking feelings, but about wisely choosing where to place your concern. The Stoics divided life into two categories: things that truly matter, like virtue and character, and things they called indifference. These indifference weren't meaningless, but they didn't determine a person's worth. Health, wealth, reputation, these were preferred indifference. Naturally, anyone would choose good health over illness or financial stability over poverty. But here's the key: while you might prefer them, your happiness doesn't depend on them. On the flip side, dispreferred indifference were things like sickness or poverty, circumstances you'd avoid if possible, but that couldn't rob you of inner peace unless you let them. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, born into slavery, embodied this. His freedom wasn't about his external condition, but his unshakable mindset. This distinction is liberating. Imagine two people lose their jobs. One spirals into despair, tying their worth to the title they held. The other, practicing Stoic indifference, acknowledges the setback but focuses on what they control: their effort, adaptability, and values. The job, a preferred indifferent, their integrity priceless. To apply this, try a simple exercise. List things you deeply desire: a promotion, a relationship, even a sunny vacation. Then ask, could I still live well without this? Not that you wouldn't enjoy it, but recognizing it as a nice to have rather than a must have loosens its grip on your peace. This mindset isn't about rejecting life's joys, but about holding them lightly. As we'll see next, this prepares us to explore the Stoic archer, a powerful metaphor for focusing on effort over outcomes. Now let's turn to a vivid Stoic metaphor that reshapes how we approach goals and setbacks: the Stoic archer. Picture an archer drawing their bow with perfect form, aiming carefully, and releasing the arrow with precision. Here's the catch: once the arrow leaves the bow, wind, luck, or any number of factors can alter its path. The Stoics argued that the archer's job isn't to guarantee the arrow hits the target, but to control everything up to the moment of release: their stance, focus, and technique. The outcome, that's not entirely in their hands. This analogy cuts to the heart of modern frustration. How often do we tie our self-worth to results: a promotion, a flawless project, or social media likes, as if we alone dictate the outcome? The Stoic archer reminds us, excellence lies in the quality of your effort, not the scoreboard. Imagine a student who studies diligently but receives a lower grade than expected. The Stoic response isn't despair, but pride in their preparation and curiosity about what they can learn from the experience. Apply this to your own goals. Break them into two categories: your actions, the archer's control, and the results, the arrow's flight. Pour energy into the first, showing up consistently, refining skills, staying adaptable, while holding the second lightly. When setbacks come, ask, did I give my best effort? If yes, the outcome isn't a verdict on your worth. This mindset transforms failure from a threat to feedback. A startup founder whose venture fails might blame luck or market shifts, but the Stoic archer asks, what did I learn? How did I grow? The target isn't the only measure of success. The strength of your draw matters just as much. As we'll see next, this focus on what we can influence naturally leads us to another powerful Stoic tool, the circles of concern, which help us direct our energy wisely. Building on the archer's focus on what we can control, let's explore another Stoic tool for directing our energy wisely, the circles of concern. Imagine a series of rings radiating outward like ripples in a pond. The innermost circle represents you, the next your family, followed by friends, community, and finally all of humanity. This was Hierocle's vision, a map for expanding our care without burning out. The Stoics recognize that we naturally prioritize ourselves, but wisdom lies in gently stretching that concern outward. Think of it like strengthening a muscle. Start where it's comfortable, your health, your goals, then gradually extend to loved ones, neighbors, and even strangers. The key: balance, pouring all your energy into global problems while neglecting personal well-being leads to exhaustion, but fixating only on yourself breeds isolation. Modern life tests this balance daily. Social media floods us with distant crises while daily responsibilities demand attention. The circles offer clarity. Tend to your inner ring first, rest, reflection, growth, so you have strength to support others. Then choose where to invest your expanded concern. Maybe it's mentoring a colleague, the friends circle, or volunteering locally, the community ring. You needn't solve world hunger to matter. Small, consistent actions ripple outward. Consider climate change, an overwhelming global issue, the Stoic approach. Start in your inner circles, reduce waste at home, then inspire your community to recycle. This isn't about perfection, but progressive influence. Even Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, reminded himself, what's good for the hive is good for the bee. By framing our concerns this way, we avoid two traps: helplessness, I can't fix everything, and selfishness, only my circle matters. Instead, we become like the archer, focused on our aim, but aware of how each action connects to something larger. Next, we'll see how Stoics applied this sense of connection to define purpose through another lens: our roles in life. Now let's turn to how the Stoics found clarity in life's chaos by embracing their roles. Imagine waking up each day with a clear answer to the question, what is my purpose? The Stoics did this by defining themselves not just as individuals, but through their interconnected roles: parent, sibling, friend, citizen, professional. Each role came with responsibilities, like pieces of a mosaic that together created meaning. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who journaled nightly, often reminded himself of his roles: as a leader to serve justice, as a father to model patience, as a student of philosophy to cultivate wisdom. This wasn't about perfection, but intention. When overwhelmed, he'd ask, what is my duty as a human being, as a ruler? The answers anchored him. Modern life bombards us with endless choices, leaving many adrift in existential anxiety. Role ethics cuts through that noise. Think of it as a compass. Your role as a parent guides how you spend evenings. Your role as a citizen informs voting decisions. Your role as a friend shapes how you show up in tough times. Unlike rigid identities, roles are flexible. You might be a mentor at work, a learner in a book club. Here's the Stoic secret: when you feel lost, list your roles. A young adult might write student, daughter, volunteer, artist. Each role suggests actions: studying diligently, calling home weekly, creating freely. This transforms abstract unease into concrete steps. Even in suffering, roles provide direction. Seneca, exiled and stripped of status, leaned into his role as a thinker, writing, "No one is exiled from wisdom." Critics might argue this boxes us in, but Stoics saw the opposite. Roles aren't cages, they're stages. You play many parts across life's play, each offering chances for virtue. A barrister can embody kindness, a CEO fairness. Status doesn't limit character. Social media often reduces us to singular labels: influencer, boss, but Stoic role ethics celebrates our multidimensionality. Feeling insignificant, remember, your roles, however small they seem, weave you into humanity's tapestry. The parent raising curious children, the neighbor who listens, these ripple outward. By grounding ourselves in roles, we trade the anxiety of "who am I?" for the clarity of "what can I do here and now?" Next, we'll explore how the Stoics applied this focus to one of life's most precious resources, time. Now let's shift our focus to one of the most pressing concerns of modern life, time. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, had profound insights on this in his essay on the shortness of life. He observed that people often complain life is too short, yet waste it on trivial pursuits. The real issue isn't the length of our days, but how we spend them. Seneca drew a sharp contrast between being busy and being purposeful. Modern productivity culture glorifies packed schedules, but Stoics measured time in meaningful moments. Think of it this way: scrolling social media for hours might feel like leisure, but does it nourish your character? Seneca urged us to treat time as currency, invest it in what truly enriches the soul, like learning, relationships, or self-reflection. Here's a Stoic exercise to reclaim your time. Conduct a time audit by tracking your activities for 3 days. Label each as virtuous, aligned with growth, necessary routine tasks, or empty, mindless distractions. You'll likely find pockets of empty time ripe for better use. The goal isn't rigid efficiency, but conscious choice. Modern life tricks us into believing multitasking is mastery. Stoics practiced single tasking with full presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Concentrate every minute on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." Whether it's a work project or a family dinner, immerse yourself completely. This depth, not speed, creates fulfillment. Seneca also warned against postponing life. We often say, "I'll travel after retirement," or "I'll start that passion project next year." But Stoics asked, what if next year never comes? Their solution: live each day as if it could be your last, not with fear but with intention. To apply this, try the evening review. Before bed, ask, did I use today's hours wisely? Did I act according to my roles and values? No guilt, just awareness. Over time, this sharpens your ability to prioritize like a Stoic. Next, we'll explore the Stoic ideal of the sage, not as perfection, but as a guiding star for progress. Moving forward, let's unpack the Stoic ideal of the sage, a concept that might sound lofty at first, but holds incredibly practical wisdom for our daily lives. The sage represents the perfectly wise person, someone who lives in complete harmony with nature and reason, untouched by irrational emotions or external chaos. But here's the crucial twist: the Stoics never claimed this was an achievable standard. Instead, they saw the sage as a guiding star, a reminder of what we're striving toward, not a finish line to cross. Think of it like aiming for the horizon while sailing. You'll never actually reach it, but keeping your eyes fixed on it ensures you stay on course. Marcus Aurelius wrote volumes to himself about his own shortcomings, not to wallow in failure but to measure his progress. That's the real power of this ideal. It's not about being flawless, but about growing a little wiser each day. So how do we apply this? Start by reframing your goals. Instead of saying, "I'll be calm in every situation," try, "Today, I'll pause before reacting to one frustrating email." Small, deliberate steps like this align with the Stoic principle of progress over perfection. Epictetus put it bluntly, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. In other words, embrace the messy middle. Another practical tool is the sage test. When faced with a decision, ask, what would the wisest version of me do? Not some mythical figure, but the person you're gradually becoming. This shifts focus from self-judgment to self-guidance. For example, the sage wouldn't skip a workout because they're tired. They'd recognize it as an opportunity to strengthen discipline. The beauty of this ideal is that it meets us where we are. Had a day where you lost your temper, the sage would note it, learn, and move forward without self-flagellation. That's the heart of Stoic growth. Each stumble is data, not defeat. As we turn our attention next to turning trials into training, remember the sage isn't a destination. It's the compass that keeps us moving forward, one mindful choice at a time. Now let's explore how Stoicism transforms life's toughest moments into opportunities for growth. Epictetus famously said, "Difficulties show what men are." At first glance, that might sound harsh, but the Stoics saw adversity differently, not as punishment, but as training. Think of it like a blacksmith's forge. The heat tempers the steel, making it stronger. Your challenges aren't roadblocks, they're the weights in your mental gym. Take a modern example, job rejection. Most people see it as failure, but the Stoic approach flips the script. Instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," ask, "What skill can I sharpen? What feedback can I use?" That shift turns a setback into a setup for improvement. Or consider a strained relationship. Rather than blaming the other person, Stoicism asks, "Where can I practice patience or clearer communication?" History's full of people who used this mindset. Thomas Edison didn't call his thousands of failed lightbulb experiments mistakes. He called them ways not to make a light bulb. Every trial taught him something. The Stoics would have applauded that. Even in small daily struggles, a missed bus, a rude coworker, you can train resilience. Ask yourself, what's this moment teaching me about my own strength? Here's the key. Stoics don't just endure hardship, they engage with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So next time you face a challenge, pause and ask, how is this situation my teacher? That's how ordinary people build extraordinary character, one intentional response at a time. As we move toward the power of Stoic friendships, remember, your trials aren't tearing you down. They're revealing who you're capable of becoming. Now let's turn to something we all value deeply but often take for granted: friendship. The Stoics had profound insights about what makes relationships meaningful, and their wisdom feels especially relevant today when so many connections stay surface level. Seneca put it bluntly, "Friendship always benefits, love sometimes injures." He wasn't saying love is bad, he was highlighting how true friendship, the Stoic kind, elevates rather than drains us. Think about your own circle. How many people do you share honest conversations with, the kind where you challenge each other's thinking or call out unhelpful habits? Stoic friendships weren't about nodding along to keep the peace. They were partnerships in growth. Epictetus warned against bonding over trivial things like gossip or complaints. Instead, he urged friends to wake each other up to higher standards. Imagine texting a friend not just to vent, but to ask, how can we turn this frustration into fuel? Here's where modern life gets tricky. Social media rewards quick likes and shallow comments, making it easy to confuse familiarity with friendship. The Stoics would ask, are these connections helping you practice virtue? If not, they might be what Marcus Aurelius called smoke, visible for a moment, then gone without substance. So how do we build deeper bonds? Start with this simple exercise, the virtue mirror. Next time you're with a close friend, discuss one Stoic principle you're each working on, maybe patience or courage. Then, once a week, check in. How did you live that virtue recently? It's not about judging, it's about reflecting together. Another practice, the discomfort share. Open up about something you'd normally hide, like a fear or failure. Why? Because as Seneca wrote, in friendship the joys are doubled and the sorrows halved. True friendship in the Stoic sense isn't just comfort, it's construction. You're not just sharing memes, you're building each other's character. And in a world full of fleeting connections, that kind of bond isn't just rare. It's revolutionary. As we prepare to wrap up with a complete daily Stoic routine, consider this. Your toughest challenges reveal your strength, but your closest friendships reveal your growth. Both are essential to the peaceful mind Stoicism promises. Now, let's bring everything together with a powerful daily routine, your blueprint for a Stoic morning and evening. Imagine starting and ending each day with intention, turning philosophy into action. The Stoics didn't just theorize about peace, they built it through rituals, and you can too. Begin your morning with what Marcus Aurelius called the first victory, mastering your mindset before the day begins. Instead of reaching for your phone, take 5 minutes for the view from above exercise. Visualize your place in the vast universe, recognizing how small daily stresses truly are. Then, journal using the 3-part Stoic method. What challenges might today bring? How can I meet them with virtue? What's one thing within my control? This primes you to focus on effort, not outcomes, like the Stoic archer. Midday, practice the discipline of ascent. When frustration arises, pause and ask, is this worth my energy? Channel Seneca's advice on anger by counting to 10 before reacting. Use lunch as a moment for voluntary discomfort. Skip the extra snack or take a cold drink. It's not about punishment, it's about reminding yourself that you can thrive with less. As evening falls, reflect like Epictetus. Review your day with honesty. Where did I act with courage? Where did fear control me? Write down one lesson, just as Seneca did in his letters. Then, try a modern twist on memento mori. Put a small object like a coin or stone in your pocket tomorrow to remind you of life's brevity. Finally, express gratitude for 3 specific moments, no matter how small. This routine isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Adapt it, shorten exercises on busy days, or focus on one insight at a time. The goal, to weave Stoicism into the fabric of your life, so peace isn't something you find, but something you live. With these tools, you're not just learning Stoicism, you're becoming it. And that's how philosophy transforms from words on a page to unshakable calm in your heart. As we wrap up this journey through Stoic wisdom, let's revisit the most transformative insights that can truly reshape your mindset. The dichotomy of control teaches us to focus only on what we can influence, freeing us from unnecessary anxiety. Amor Fati, the love of fate, invites us to embrace life's challenges as opportunities for growth. And practices like memento mori and premeditatio malorum ground us in gratitude and resilience. But here's the key: you don't need to master all 25 insights at once. Start small, choose just 2 or 3 that resonate most with you right now. Maybe it's journaling like a Stoic each morning, or pausing to ask, is this within my control? When stress arises, remember, Stoicism isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Even Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, wrote in his private journal to remind himself of these very principles. To leave you with a final thought, here's his timeless reminder. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Let that sink in. True peace isn't the absence of chaos, but the ability to navigate it with clarity and calm. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which Stoic insight will you try first? Drop a comment below, and if this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more practical wisdom. Your journey to a peaceful mind starts today.